All right, good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to another short war summary. Today, we're receiving some very disturbing news coming out of Ukraine about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Now, a lot of you know that this power plant has become a recurring nightmare for Ukraine, as the Russians are rumored to be trying to blow it up. It appears now that we're receiving some evidence that that might be coming sooner than expected, and also Ukraine keeps sounding the alarm that an attack is imminent. So let's jump right into our first piece of news here, which is a post from Flash News Ukraine, which says the Russians are reducing the presence on the territory of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, reports the Chief Directorate of Intelligence. 3 employees of Rosatom who led the actions of the Russians left the station, and the Ukrainian employees who signed the contract with Rosatom, which is the energy commission that the Russians have, which run the plant, received recommendations to evacuate by July 5th, which is right around the corner. They also said that the number of military patrols is also gradually decreasing in the territory of the nuclear power plant itself and Enerhodar, and the personnel remaining at the station have been instructed to blame Ukraine in case of any emergencies. And I will say that I have no doubt that Russia would try to blame Ukraine for an emergency that happened at the plant. However, to quote this down here at the last line, I'm not really sure about that. I haven't seen anyone say that quote by quote, but I would assume that's probably the case. But it's very disturbing here to see that Rosatom's apparently getting their employees out of the plant and telling the Ukrainian employees to get out by July 5th. To say this is concerning is an understatement. It looks like something might be coming by the 5th of July, which is basically days away. It seems to add credence to the fact that Ukrainians are saying that an attack is coming soon. And I hate to say that because it sounds almost like fear-mongering, but this is hard to believe that they're actually getting employees out of the plant as we speak. So we need to keep watching this one very closely. This is a very big story, and it prompts the question whether or not NATO intervention may be needed now instead of waiting for this to get worse. But we'll have to keep an eye on this one. So moving on to our next piece of news, it's also about the power plant itself, and we got some new pictures out from the Kakhovka Reservoir, and they're saying now to the Kakhovka Desert. It looks like it is completely empty. Very bad and very disturbing to see. Here's the dry bed at the bottom. Then we have a picture here which actually shows the power plant in the background, and you can see how empty this reservoir is. It's basically bone dry almost. Now, this is highly concerning as well because it looks like we're going to have a major problem trying to keep the plant cool now. The IAEA says that they have gotten 3 other sources of water. However, those sources are auxiliary. They're not main sources of water. This was the main source of water, and it is now bone dry. So even though the Russians may or may not attack the plant, even though it's looking more likely now, this is going to present a problem on its own outside of an attack that might be coming in the near future. So, goodness, I hate to see that. But anyways, moving on to our next piece of news here, we have some more news about Prigozhin. It says that the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation received the task of killing the Wagner chief Prigozhin, the head of the main intelligence service of the Ministry of Defense said, which is Budanov. Now, a lot of us have known that Prigozhin's fate is already sealed. He's pretty much a dead man walking at this point. However, a lot of people, including the ISW, the Institute for the Study of War, have said that they might not kill Prigozhin yet because they risk turning him into a martyr. Putin might go ahead and actually do it because Putin is really not using his head at this point. This guy is pretty much confused at how to handle the situation still, and he might just kill Prigozhin now out of spite or out of panic, not knowing how to handle this coup that is still basically reeling with the aftermath of it. So, very interesting with this piece right here. Moving on to our next piece of news here, we have a post from OSINT Defender, which says that the Prime Minister of Poland stated today that he's requested for the U.S. to begin the deployment of nuclear weapons into Poland due to the recent transfer of Russian tactical nuclear weapons onto the territory of Belarus. And this is also a pretty big story itself. Poland is requesting nuclear weapons be deployed in their territory in response to what Russia did by giving Belarus nukes. I'm not sure if the situation really warrants this or not. The nukes that were placed in Belarus really didn't change very much. It was more symbolic than actually strategic. The weapons that Russia already had in their territory could technically already reach all the places that the Belarusian nuclear missiles can also reach now. So I'm not sure if this request is going to go anywhere, but it is something that Poland has asked for, and I'm sure that everyone will probably consider probably seriously, but we'll have to see how it turns out. Moving on to our next piece of news here, we have a post which says a cyber attack knocks out satellite communications for the Russian military. And also, by the way, this is a post from Apex News. So the other day, we heard that apparently some satellite internet service in Russia had gotten knocked offline for some time, and some speculated that the Wagner arm of cybersecurity might have done that. It appears here that at least two groups have claimed responsibility for the attack. It was either a Ukrainian hacking group or it was also that Wagner group that I just mentioned a moment ago. Wagner could be trying to open up basically a new front of a coup, which is in the cyber attack realm, and this could be their work. It's just hard to tell right now. There's not a lot of details about it. But if it is Wagner, that tells us that they are not done yet, and they're going to start trying other methods rather than conventional warfare to try to take out the Russian government. So, very interesting as well. And with that, we're moving on to our next piece of news. This one is from Visegrad 24, which says a Russian national has attacked the Chisinau airport in the capital city of Moldova and shot 2 people to death, and then the SWAT team stormed into the airport and arrested him. And this is a big piece of news as well because it's been rumored before that Russia is going to try to destabilize Moldova, and this could be their first attempt to do so by sending in a Russian national to conduct a terrorist attack. This is sort of speculation at this point, but we do know for a fact it was a Russian national, and apparently they had some kind of motivations that we're not aware of just yet. They could be linked to the Russian government. Like I said, though, it's too early to tell. Moving on to our next piece of news here. We covered this last night on the stream somewhat, but just to go over a little bit more of the details, it says the U.S. may transfer cluster munitions to Ukraine as early as July, and the final decision of the White House on this issue is expected in the near future. If approved, the ammunition could be included in a new package of military aid to Kyiv as early as next month. And cluster munitions are actually controversial, believe it or not. I'm sure a lot of you are going to put your opinions down in the comments below, and I encourage you to do so. Go down there and hash it out and see what others think about this themselves. Legally speaking, though, the U.S. is not a part of any treaty which bans the use or the transfer of cluster munitions, so we can definitely send these to Ukraine, but it's another question as to whether or not we should. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, I think that we should play on a level playing field with Russia, and if they're going to use weapons that are banned in war, then I don't think there's anything wrong with sending cluster munitions myself to Ukraine. But that's just my opinion, and I'll have to leave that up to y'all to decide what y'all think about it. But with that being said, we're moving on to our last piece of news here, which is from Null Reports. We also touched on this briefly last night as well in a poll, but we're going to cover this in more detail as well. It looks like Pat Ryder, the Pentagon press secretary, said that he has nothing to announce on ATACMS, and he's not aware of any decisions on ATACMS. And Ukraine has been hoping that the U.S. will send them ATACMS to help defend their territory for many months now, and it looks like the press secretary here is trying to basically allude and say that nothing has been made when it comes to a decision on that. This sounds to me like doublespeak because the wording is very suspicious. He said he had nothing to announce on it, and he's not aware of any decisions. Well, he's not the only one that is in the decision-making process, and there's other people that might be aware of the decision, and I find this wording kind of sneaky. It could be that, like with many other weapons that we've sent to Ukraine, that they're already on the way there, and we're waiting till they arrive before we announce that we gave them to them. That could be the case as well. So, with that is our last news story of this video. However, I want to return real quick to this power plant issue. I want to say something real quick that I think a lot of people are going to think as well. I think that NATO should be looking at this as a potential scenario where we need to intervene. We need to step in my opinion, before this gets out of hand and actually blows up. NATO is going to basically sit here and not act, and we're going to have a much worse situation on our hands than sending in a preemptive group of troops, a small group granted, of NATO troops to go in and secure this power plant and ensure nothing happens to it that will affect not only Ukraine and Russia, but many other countries as well. I know some people are going to disagree with me on that, but I think the risk of sending in a small group of NATO soldiers to secure this plant is a smaller risk than allowing it to potentially blow up. This is a very concerning situation, and I would say it's probably at an 8 or 9 out of 10 on the severity scale. This is a very, very bad situation. But nonetheless, with that being said, that is all the news for this video. I hope you found this informative, and if you would, please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and also on this video. And also peep the Twitter if you haven't already, and give us a follow over there. We post the news as it happens, and if you want to hear more about the day's events, we will discuss them tonight on our stream on our YouTube channel at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye for now.